public has no input during council budget discussion.
I've been saying that for years, everybody knows.
What?
They don't, it's not an open discussion, everybody.
If you want to hear, you were right. You were right.
I really have been saying that.
You were right, Shields.
Okay, I'm gonna start if you don't mind, gentlemen, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Okay, a couple, just some housekeeping things. First of all, I'm just gonna start with some house rules, you have a copy there. Although the 2015 budget meetings have been legally advertised in the Valley Mirror and the Daily News as required, the public is invited to observe. Budget deliberations are among council members and staff only. Public has no input during council budget discussions and deliberations. The public will have that time to review the eventual adopted proposed budget after December 17th and offer comment up to and including the special council meeting on December 30th. This December 8th meeting will start at 6:30 and we will end no later than 8:30, hopefully before. And following this meeting, adjustments will be made to the 2015 budget document in time for a revised budget document for the second budget meeting, which will be Wednesday, the 10th, starting at 6:30. Just a couple other things. As we know, 2013 going into 14 and even 14 has been very difficult for everyone in this community. Just to remind council that we did lose about $250,000 of RAD sales tax money. Given the 2014-15 minimum municipal obligation, we're on the hook over 2 years for $1,072,000. Munhall Borough paid the police pension, the 5% that we're currently debating with the Civil Service Commission to the tune of $242,000. We have a penalty from the Social Security Administration up to $80,000 due to the malfeasance of the previous manager. We owe $21,000 in penalty for state sales, state tax that was not reported properly. And we have $450,000 per year in workers' comp premium.
Could you repeat that again? I've been disturbed by someone here. Seriously though,
Or are you?
that's really some serious numbers, Bob. Could you repeat them for me? Because I'd like to write them down. 'Cause that's
I
really-
can give you a copy of it if you want to.
Could you give me a copy of
Sure.
it? I would
I
appreciate
just
it.
gave you that as a backdrop to the 2015 proposed budget, but where we are now, let's look at where we are financially now. 2014 as of December 4th, and after having completed the payroll as well as the bills that are being paid right now, we have in our liquid fuels account $234,521.93. That, as you know, can be applied toward road materials, road salt, as well as street lights. I propose that that will be transferred from the liquid fuels account to the general fund account before the end of this year, because we do have the invoices and the documentation to substantiate that expenditure. In the general fund, right now, we have $650,013.33. And we have in our payroll account $67,906.15. So roughly, we have about $800,000 to $900,000 liquid right now. We do have one more payroll period. We do have a number of other bills to pay, as well as year-end some lease payments. That will take up a good amount of that, but we will have some money left over for 2015. But for the purposes of the budget of 2015, I'm going to assume nothing. I wanted to give you a backdrop on that.
Bob has a seat next to him. I think he wants you to fire chief sit up there. There's a name tag there.
So we did issue a budget to the council members last Friday, which has since been amended somewhat and corrected. But just as a backdrop, I'm just going to go through the summary. On pages 5 and 6 of your green covered sheet. I'm just going to focus on the right-hand column. On the projected revenue for 2015, and looking at it from a conservative point of view, I would anticipate we have roughly $6,768,670 that we can anticipate in 2015. If you look on the expenditure side, on page 6, on the right-hand column, we're looking at right now, without any deliberation, total expenditures of $7,747,590. Looking at expenditures over revenue of $978,929. So that is the gap that we need to address over the next couple of weeks. What I'd like to do right now is invite the police chief and the fire chief to defend their budgets as they submitted it to me. You do have their budgets in your green handout. We will be talking about revenues, not today or on Wednesday, but rather next week. I want to focus on expenditures because those are perhaps we're going to have to do some cutting. I can tell you that of the monies that we anticipate for revenue, a good 75% is not discretionary. That is fixed costs, and salaries and fringe benefits, facilities. So you have roughly 25% that's considered discretionary. So I'm going to ask the police chief to at least go over the police budget. You will have that on page 29 and thereafter of your green handout. I can tell you just on the salary and the fringes that we did factor in the increases that are by contract in the collective bargaining agreement. They are included within the proposed 2015 column for the salaries, and then incrementally the benefits that follow thereafter. I do have to mention, and many of you know, that the police have been cooperative in working with the administration relative to the health care cost, the health insurance costs. They did accept the plan that I recommended, which is comparable to what they have right now, with the exception of some minor increases in prescription costs. But the overall premium itself only increased by $2,000 a month. Had they not agreed to do that, there would have been an increase of about $75,000 just in the health insurance line item itself. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Campbell to address a few items on the proposed expenditures on the police side. We do have one or two adjustments we do need to discuss.
First off, anybody have any questions looking at this?
I did notice one number in here, and it was from the draft that I had, and I think everybody has to recognize. Let me see if I can find the page.
It's the one dated December 5th.
Yes. And that is that it's not really discretionary, but we're suffering wage inflation. And it was a $200,000 payroll increase over the prior year.
For what month?
No, this is for the year.
Overall?
What, hold on, I'll be with you in 1 second. Police services. It went, if you look at page 29.
It's 29 of the December 5th.
Correct.
What line item?
Well, that would be line items 410, 121, 122, 122, 141. And if you total those up, it's a couple $100,000 in increase over the 2014 budget. And it's not a discretionary number, it's contractual. So, and when you combine that with the medical and the work comp, we're looking at a 1 mil increase every year in the foreseeable future just to cover our wage contract.
But aren't you negotiating a police contract next year?
We will be, but I'm just making a point that can we continue to sustain, and should we continue to sustain long-term, should we just have a 1 mil tax increase every year to cover our collective bargaining agreement with the police department?
Well, isn't this a little premature? I mean, isn't there?
No, I'm talking about the numbers, Mayor.
I'm talking about.
I'm talking about,
You have a quarter of a year to come in yet.
I'm not talking about 930, I'm talking about the overall increase. When you take the total wages, when you take the total for health insurance and workers' comp, and it goes up $300,000 in real terms, you're talking about almost a mil of tax. And I'm just asking, how do we go into the future? Do we just continue to absorb that, or how do we control that? What do we
We
do?
have to do that through negotiations. I mean, I don't, he's negotiated with bargaining, and I don't.
Or you at least have to get one more year of that, no matter what.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing that we can do about it for this year, for this coming year, but I think it's an issue that we have to, as a group,
If that
recognize.
continues,
We
that's.
talked about this when you were council president.
Well, there are things you can do. That number's not etched in stone.
But I
Talking about the 3% continuing over.
Well, that's what he's talking about, but there are other ways of going around that number too.
That's where I'm coming
And what are those?
Well, there's layoffs. You could lay police officers off. You could lay off public works people. That's a lot.
talking about that, the police.
Well, you're talking about the numbers, and you're saying there's no other way of doing it.
We're talking about over the years, if the salaries keep compounding every year.
Yeah.
There's no, out of control. We talked about maybe giving the increases
I mean, I
by.
don't,
I
like I
think-
said,
I
you
think
have to
The recommendation I would make is that we have, like any other normal business, and or even other governmental entities where they bracket employees by what they do.
Well, you guys
There's a
have-
maximum pay that you can make per category. Don't you have that at your work, Rob? They have-
There's job classifications.
Job classifications,
Yeah. I
so
mean,
you
if
come up-
if you want more money, you bid up on a higher level job.
At some point, would that have to be developed here? Because the
Also,
wage
that's, I mean, that is
inflation.
in place as their rank, but, guys have to go to court, they have to prosecute cases. When they do that, it's over and above their scheduled time, they get paid for that.
Was
Just
there a
like
way to
everywhere
schedule
else.
that so it's not?
No.
It's almost impossible with a 21-man department.
It's really not. They go downtown, and I believe, Pat, do we have to pay 4 hours, whether they're there for an hour or?
No,
Because a lot of times they come
it's
to
not
town
like-
and the
I
case
mean,
gets canceled. I know you can handle it down at Turkosco, but I know in the county it's a little rougher.
It's not easy to, some guys, most of the guys, if they're down there if they drive down there, they're down there, they get an automatic plea, which never happens. They'll come back, they'll put it for 2 hours.
Okay, they do, okay.
But you work down there,
I know.
You're never down there for 15 minutes, you're down there
No.
for half a day
No.
before they send you home.
Very
on a
seldom do they
postponement.
hear, I mean, they may waste their time, I know a lot of times, but then if you don't send them down, then you're in contempt of court.
I think
So
what
we
needs
have
to
to
happen,
down.
in order for us to ease on some of those costs, we have to talk to the elected judges down there to start their cases on time. Don't let postponements go, to 3 o'clock, then you give a postponement. We paid for that guy or 2 guys to sit down in court all day, then they have to come back for another round. We're paying that bill every time.
Right.
I get a subpoena list for every case we have. I read the report, I read the subpoena list. I call the district attorney, the ADA is assigned to the case. I say, listen, I read the synopsis, this officer you have subpoenaed for this case can offer no testimony. I'm not sending them. Take them off your list, we'll put them on will call, on call, whatever you want to do, but I'm not giving them the subpoena. 9 times out of 10, I don't have a problem with that. Sometimes they want them there no matter what, if they stood guard outside of a building.
Well, a lot of times our guys I mean, and there's no control over it, they have no control over it. I know a lot of times they're waiting in the hall outside of the courtroom for 3 or 4 hours until their time is called to come in.
And, yeah, then they'll come
But
in,
they
and
tell
they'll
them
send
leave.
them home. They'll say, we're
Right.
postponing until next week, then they
That
gotta be
happens
back
all the
there next
time,
week.
that's a killer.
So-
Well, they need to get their act together down there.
That's
How
that's
that
beyond your
happen?
control.
I know that happens.
Beyond anyone's
Well,
control
it
here.
still has to be noted to
So-
the DA's office that they need to clean up their act, because it's costing not just Munhall, but every
Oh,
municipality.
Every
Yeah,
municipality,
it's not
tens of
one
thousands of dollars.
It's
a year.
everyone.
One thing I wanna make a statement that you said, Dan, to the board over there, was, what are we gonna do about this? How are we gonna go on with all this stuff? How are we gonna continue on? You have to remember, the police came to us and said they were willing to freeze their wages for a year as well. So,
Only in exchange for, we were gonna pay it back the following year, so that was a wash.
whatever, it's still a freeze.
I was adding a year to the contract they wanted to do, they were gonna take the raise for 1 year.
So, I'm just bringing the point up.
Yeah, we know that, we talked about that.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, that's something you can control with the bargaining unit that, you know.
Well, we talked about the increases increasing all the time, 3% that would keep building up over the years. What you end up doing is paying that 3% with a bonus, keeping the salaries where you want them to be. Now, the contractor, the chief's salary isn't part of the contract.
It's not,
The captain's is,
it is.
and everything else, just yours is the only one that's not.
I'm the only one excluded from the bargaining.
I thought that's the way it was.
Kind of factored in 3%.
What's that?
I factored in a 3%
Right,
for the chief.
that 3%
whether that's good or bad.
compounds all the time before you know, we talked about it probably 6, 7 years ago, of just paying that 3% with a bonus, not compounding every year. You know, everyone kind of agreed to it, but it never happened.
Yes, we did.
If you want to go on to some of the highlights of the budget.
K-9 expenses, it's a relatively small number. Officer Stoller has indicated to me that it may be time to retire the dog. I'm waiting to get a report back from the vet. If that's the case, we can eliminate that altogether. Let's see, longevity. Task force, that number for the year is what, 31,000 was budgeted.
Brought in 32. I was
Yeah,
thinking
32, I would say that 35 more for next year would probably be closer to 40 or 45. That's all dollar for dollar reimbursable from the
That's
federal
pass-through.
government or the state or whoever the sponsoring agency is. Uniform allowance and vest, that's contractual.
Yeah, I throw that in there because you have your uniform allowance, but the 14.7 includes what the chief suggests is that we need new vests for our office.
And we staggered that, you know, so every couple of years, there's a group that needs a new vest. They last 5 years. They're warranted for 5 years.
Now, if we budget those, you can't file them with forfeiture money. If they're not budgeted, we can, right?
Vest, yeah, but if you take them out, it's a necessity. They're required to wear that.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna be something.
Will we apply to buy them with forfeiture money?
What I'm saying is if you take it out of the budget,
Right, and if you can't, don't get it, you can't buy it.
well,
Well, since it is a contractual
contractual
issue,
issue.
I don't know if you'd be able to
right,
take it
I
out
mean,
as
it's
they
been a
would,
contract for a
they
number.
check over those
Right.
things.
The body cameras, we probably could be taking that, because that's
Right,
relatively a
and-
new item, right?
I didn't think that was
So maybe we can take
included
the
in
body
there.
cameras out.
We discussed that, and I said, we can buy that. If you don't put it in there, then we can buy that, if we're inclined to do that.
How about if we scratch the body cameras and move
I
forfeiture?
scratched that out altogether.
Well, the forfeiture money is on the revenue side. This is expenditure, so if you use it for the revenue, it just.
So it's just a
offsets the
wash
expenditure.
anyways, if we do it, but if it
We
can't be in
still
the
show
budget.
expenditure on our books, no matter where the money comes
But
from.
it can't be in the budget, the body cameras can't
If,
be
yeah,
in the budget.
whatever, if there's anything that we wanna use to buy with asset forfeiture money, it cannot be in the budget.
Okay?
It can, it's
We scratch
against the
body
law. You
cameras
can't do it.
and
It's not against their way
put
to
that
do
towards
it.
forfeiture.
And it's never been in there before, so.
Right,
there's no
right.
way
So
to
no
do
way
it.
to- so
We
let's-
could just knock it out.
Mhm.
So we just say $22,000.
No, not that much.
Hey,
8,000.
you cutting the vests out too.
No, we didn't
No,
cut
you
this.
can't cut the
We
vest
didn't
out.
cut them
Yeah, that's contract, it's in the contract.
Oh,
Contractual.
8,000.
8,000, we just said.
Animal control, that's a contract that, the office agrees to with Ken Faree. We have no control over that. Supply stationery, copier, we have nothing over that. Yeah, as you know, what we've done in the past is we budgeted 2 vehicles every year, to keep the fleet from falling apart. It works well. I know it's, not exactly the best time to ask for 2 cars, that's what we've done in the past.
I can tell you in preparing the budget here, as you can see on page, of the green handout 30, that's where we are right now in police cars. I did not factor in the police cars. What I factored in was a 1-year lease payment. So that is probably not correct to do that. Even though if we buy a car, it's $35,000, we don't pay $35,000, we pay the actual lease cost per year. But that might be double that, because that lease cost is for the car we purchased or leased last year.
How many police cars do we have?
8.
I know we talked about, when you have more cars, you put less miles on them, and they tend, the loss and the breakdowns is less severe to the fleet.
But that, you can rotate the cars.
Right.
Having the fleet maintenance has been, the godsend for us, to be honest. They get serviced regularly. We're getting more miles out of the vehicles.
You mean,
First vehicle.
first vehicle maintenance, as long as they don't have our gas cards, right?
They do not, we don't have gas cards.
Other than hot gas. But, well, I'm gonna look at that number again. I mean, what would you suggest that number be, chief? And this just came up this afternoon when I talked to the chief, that it's not right just to put that lease cost in there, but perhaps a 1-year lease with new car.
Right, that 9671
Round it
is
up to
probably,
10.
yeah, that's one vehicle. That's a lease payment for one vehicle, I would imagine.
The one that we have on the fleet right now.
Correct. If you do 2, it's basically about 20,000 a year if you're replacing 2 and get rid of 2. Over a 3-year period, once you outfit them with all the aftermarket equipment, it comes to about $40,000 a year, or $40,000 a vehicle.
I may have to adjust that number.
I think that program works very well. We've been doing it for years now. The 1 year we skipped it because we were short a few dollars. Ended up buying 4, that was not good.
Yeah, Ford probably 18 months, because they were just, couldn't keep on the road.
Keeping the two in, 2 out all the time works perfect.
We've been getting hammered a lot with, the recalls. Everybody got 10 different recalls on all their vehicles. We have one that's going out 8 AM Thursday morning. When that gets picked up, another one's getting dropped off. When that gets picked up, another one's getting dropped off. So we're continuously having vehicles out of service as well.
How many vehicles are we planning for 2015?
2
2.
new ones.
So you're looking at changing that number to what we have paying now, roughly
$20.
$30,000.
20.
Additional 20 on top of
No,
that.
just 10. This number is for one car, right?
For a car that
They're
was,
asking for 2.
So it'd be 20.
I think, well, it's about 20,000 a year if you lease 2 cars. I don't know if this payment you have in here, if that's an existing payment that needs to be made.
yeah, I'm saying that we have one more lease payment to be made on one of the cars for
So it would be 20 on
2015.
top of the
So it'd be 20 on
96.
top of that, which rounded to 30,000.
Okay.
Gas, oil, and fuel is down a little bit, which is good. The NCIC first vehicle washing, that's all. The Nextel and air cards, there is no, the Nextels aren't there, it's the air cards. The air cards are for every laptop that go into our radio system on different things. That's what that expense is. The cell phone is basically straight across. If you look back to 13, that's where our former manager took that plan, my plan out of the full of minutes, I think intentionally to stick it to me, whatever. That's why that number was way up that year. Mobile radio, 3,000 is a good number, it's basically radio maintenance. The 16,076 for the year, we bought, the radios that you guys, the used ones that you bought, we bought some additional radios and equipment.
Let me just stop you for a moment. Chief's got some time commitments on home that we didn't know about, but I'd like to jump to page 31 and get to some meat. 415.40. Right now, with the adjustments that we made, well, we say a date, but we had a 24, right now, we're at $2,580,149. It was suggested that we staff the police clerks. I've included that in here, for $15 an hour for 3 full-time people, figuring 35% for the fringes. So that alone there is about $125,000. That's
I thought we talked, I know that's what we really needed, but I thought we thought you could get away with 2 full-time and 1 part-time.
Chief didn't put that in there, I put that in there based on.
And I just see my name connected with it, but I thought we were talking about, when we said that we'd like to have that, but I thought we were considering 2 full-time, 1 part-time.
I think that's something that everyone would like, but I don't see it.
We don't know if we can do
It's
that,
not gonna
right?
happen.
That's why I
No.
brought up, I said my name connected with the 3 full-time.
Because well, I don't know about 3, but you requested that it be included in the budget.
But the 2 full, but I thought it was 2 full, 1 part.
Well, I thought we have 1 full-time right now, right?
We have 1 full-time right now.
1 part-time.
Adding on
I
1
saw
full,
1
full-time,
part-time
right?
being
Yeah,
elevated.
but somebody else full-time, and I thought we were looking at 1 to 2 part-timers.
The way I read that,
One
it's
full-time and
2
2 part-time.
I think this needs to be
Two
redone, but,
full-timers, and maybe 1 to 2 part-timers.
yeah, that's what I
If
thought.
I would've known we were gonna add that back, I wouldn't have cut this batch out. We're not now,
No.
we're gonna go back to,
Well,
we're gonna
I-
save
I-
$125,000 instead of
I wasn't, I
saving
mean, I thought
50.
3 full-time would be fine, but I wasn't the one that proposed that. I just wanna,
the way I understood
Well,
it.
your name's there.
I know, but I didn't write it there.
Yeah, what-
I didn't write it there.
I'm just kidding.
I know. But I thought 2 full-time, 1 part-time, or 2 full-time and 2 part-time.
The way I understood it, is that the existing part-time guy would be elevated full-time plus 2 additional.
No,
No.
that was not it. That was not it.
I mean, I'm not even sure we could even do this, but I put it in there because of the request.
That needs to be scaled down.
I would think if we could move.
Because Pat, we were
part-
budgeting about 60,000, remember?
Right.
that you
And
and I
that was
talked,
with a couple
not 93.
part-timers. If we can just
We were
get
looking at
someone in
60.
as needed, if we can,
We can
I
have
think we
50
need to move
times.
Mark to full-time
Yeah.
to staff that
Right.
correctly.
But you and I were looking about 60,000 additional, not 93,000.
It was about, there were some different options, 56,000.
That's when I,
It was around there.
that's when I thought we could.
And that was
work
like
with
2 as-needed people with 1 being the steady person.
that. Right. Because I was thinking it was a 56,000 additional we were gonna add on.
Right.
I think this is one of those feel-good budgets.
Right, I always start out, you feel good, but you come right down to the reality of it, you can't have it. That's what we do here.
Do the horse trading next week.
We don't do much horse trading, it more or less comes to the end and
Well,
Is there anything on that last page that you have any questions on? Page 31?
Yeah, salary, school boards, was it 66 grand, is that a good number?
That's what it was budgeted for 2014, I don't know of any wage increase.
No, there's been no wage increase.
We gave an increase a couple years ago.
We split that with the school.
And half of that's reimbursed
So
back.
that's 33 for us.
They should split the school guard uniforms as well.
and what about the training? That
The training doesn't really cost us much. It's actually, they're not even doing the training. Pleasant Hills put on a seminar for crossing guards every year until last year. They got a new chief, and he doesn't want to be bothered with them no more, so they don't do it anymore. So, we do have 1 person who's applied. We have 0 extras on our board right now. there is a lady who applied that I would like to put on our extra board. We would stick our training with one of our longtime guards, probably Mrs. Sagana, at the park school. So our training costs will be very minimal with that.
If somebody comes in, you hire someone new, do we have a video or something we could show them and, you know, just like, I don't know.
No, we basically, like I said, Pleasant Hills used to put a class on. It was like a 4-hour class they would get certified in. Now they're not offering that class any longer, so.
Something online we could get?
If you find something, I'm
Maybe you
sure.
could look and see it.
You know what, I'll talk to, the lady, the nurse, what's her name?
Karen, but
I'm sure she could find something for us. The lady we brought in for, to do the workers' comp and all that.
When I was saying training, I was saying the training that we have $6,000 allotted to in the budget.
Oh.
it goes to police.
Is that your testing on
No,
Weapons,
I-
probably.
no, I've addressed this for many years. That number should probably be about 3 times as high as it is, about 5 times as high it is. Not that we're gonna use it at that much, but I think for liability reasons, you're in the insurance business, I'm sure you would know this. If you look at a police department our size anywhere else, I guarantee you their training budget's $25,000 versus $6,000. We go to as much training as we can go to. A lot of it's free, some of it we pay for. You know, if we exhaust the $6,000, we send them through asset forfeiture money. Same with the ammunition. You see, the 1 year, we spent $12,000. The borough didn't pay $12,000. The police department paid the other money out of our asset forfeiture. Luckily, the price of ammunition is starting to come down, it's starting to be a little more readily available. Like I said, the training budget for this size is a joke, and I think it leaves us liable for some big issues down the road.
Well,
Well, there's nothing wrong with having in-house training either.
throw another number up there, see what you
We
need.
have a lot of in-house training. We train at the schools, we train in this building, you know, we do as much training. We train at the, Westmoreland County Community College range. We're out there a minimum twice a year, for a day shoot, for a night shoot, where we buy a $300 membership for the whole department. It guarantees us 2 weeks, plus we call if it's open, we can go out there. It's well worth the $300. And like I said, we make that $6,000, we stretch it as far as we can. We add to it through the asset forfeiture for something that we can't afford, we wanna train someone in, we pay for
Well,
it.
police procedures have been questioned all across the country the last month.
Absolutely.
And I don't need to be caught in anything.
And they're gonna be
That's what I'm
questioned more in the
saying. I mean,
future.
If, God forbid, we would get into a situation like that, they look at our training budget for $6,000 for 21 men for the year, it's a joke, we're gonna get hammered.
Well, what do we need for it?
Excuse me?
Come up with a number, come up with a good number.
I'd say 25,000. Not, like I said, not that we're gonna use 25,000, but I think liability-wise, it should be there. And that, it's been like that for years.
I think that's a worse situation.
What's that?
What?
You budgeted the money, we budget the money, and then you didn't take advantage of the training, and then something happens to somebody. That's a worse situation than they didn't have the money to budget, so we just couldn't go to any more training. You know what I mean? Then it's
Right.
gonna be on you. Well, they gave you a $25,000 budget, you use 6 of it, and a mishap happens in the field, then they're gonna look at you. I mean, it is what it is, because we don't have excess money.
Right.
I agree with you, it should be more.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think when I started here 20 years ago, it might have been 3,000. You know, it wasn't much then, you know, it should have been probably 15 then. I'm just giving you, you know, you asked for a number, I gave you an honest number.
What about our own police range downstairs?
Yeah, the only thing we could use on that anymore is frangible rounds that have no lead, because we had a problem with lead contamination down there, the whole building was contaminated with lead.
I thought a project was spent money to correct that.
It is, well, like I said, we can use frangible rounds down there. Frangible rounds cost about 1.5 times what a normal round does. So we haven't, and the length of the range is not regulation. We can get out there and practice all we want, we cannot qualify there it's not regulation. It's minimum 50 feet, and I think it's just under 45 feet from target to stance.
We're fortunate enough we'd be able to use the place. for
Right, and we
all.
haven't used it since it got refurbished because we just didn't have the money to buy the frangible ammo.
Okay. So it was refurbished.
It
It was
well,
de-leaded.
it was decontaminated. We still don't have the proper
Benefit.
ventilation system in there, but if we would use the frangible rounds, we don't need we don't need the ventilation system as much. Because there is no lead, there's no lead in the round, it's a green round. Like I said, you get out there and practice, it'll shoot just like your regular ammo. It just costs about, 1.5 to 2 times what a normal box of ammunition costs. It's very expensive if we would do that. Right. Or it would just be practice.
Some of the adjustments that I hear, at least based on the conversation, that'll be in the next document again, there'll be just further discussions on that. On the task force, we have $35,000 expenditure, I'm gonna increase that to 40. I'm gonna knock out the $8,000 for the cameras. Police cars, I'm gonna add, I'm gonna make that number $30,000, that includes at least the 3 cars, 1 existing, 2 new ones.
What's the number for the task force, Bob? 410?
410-184.
184, I had 35, I thought I heard the chief say 40,000.
Yeah,
40 would be pretty accurate. We participate in 4 different task forces through the year, and they're all reimbursed us $1. So it shows up in your expenditures, but you do reimburse for it.
We'll see if I had that number of you. Ah. Sure, buddy. Ah.
There you go. I'd say 40 would probably be, after looking, I didn't have the numbers to look at. So after looking at that, I'd say 40 would probably be a fair number.
Expect 40 back.
Bottom line is, you cut the budget, you cut it a lot last year. I sat down and we did that. And there's just not a lot of fat
Right.
in the budget. It's dedicated money, it's non-discretionary, and it's controlled by the CBA. 90% of the expenditures are payroll and benefit related. That's the bottom line. There's not much that we can
I
do.
would suggest talking to the bargaining unit again, see if there's something they're willing to do. They're always willing to talk to you.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of discretionary spending there, no.
And also on the, page 31, I'm hearing, whether it flies or not, we don't know, but 2 full-time persons as opposed to 3, is that correct?
That's what I thought we discussed, 2 full-time and a part-time.
Okay.
So we discussed, and I think that's not
Not
what we
3.
discussed here, though.
Well, we were thinking the budget would be
I
like
think 1
56 to
and some
60,000
as-needed people.
additional.
Would probably work. If we have like I said, we need a pool of people that can do it.
So we're talking $45,000 with benefits of 1 person, 1 full-timer?
Not what I submitted, it was about 30,000 in wages, and I think, it was less than 40, I believe.
Well, 30,000 is what, about $20 an hour?
No, 15.
15 an hour?
15.
Yeah, $15 an hour.
Benefits depend on whether a person's single or family.
But I think we only pay for the one anyhow, it's for the single,
No,
Right.
really.
That's what I thought.
The guy we have in place he's not married, he doesn't have a family.
Well, we better write that in, that these people aren't part of the police bargaining unit.
Right.
Or else I'll hear, well, that's the way we always did it, so I'm entitled to that, because I work in the police department. Tell me you haven't heard it, Callan, you heard it, I'm entitled to that. It's gonna have to be written so that they're not entitled to that.
So what am I hearing, 1 or 2?
One. with part-times.
One with part-time, that's all, that's all we'll do.
What am I hearing?
One with part-timers,
How many part-timers?
as many as needed.
As needed.
Right, that's what the chief said.
Did we talk about having somebody, didn't we talk about changing the shift a little bit for
Right, change
the
the
one we
hours.
have now, right?
Right.
Exactly, right.
Well, it
And then-
sure give me a hell of a lot more flexibility if you have two people running there, you can swing around to protect this building.
But didn't we see something about Saturdays and Sundays, we'd have,
And
Or, you
that
know,
that is
like
one
I said, if
item
we
that's
can-
a sore spot with me, because I don't know who's in this building, neither do the police. We get no schedule from anybody, including in the office. We get absolutely no schedule. Pat, did you get a schedule from down the, pump house too?
No, not since the
You know,
fall.
as far as I'm
September,
concerned, you
maybe
need to
last.
know who the hell's in this building.
I think you're right, Mayor. We had 24/7 round-the-clock surveillance of this building, and our borough office was compromised 3 times in a month, so,
I don't believe that ever happened.
well,
When's was
just
this?
saying.
No, I will revise these numbers for
I
for
wanted to hear about
Wednesday.
that one, I didn't know about that 3 times. That sounds like a
I
much.
thought we had the code, you come in the door now, the place is locked, you come in the door, you swipe your card. If I come through there, they know it's me, it's in this building,
Yes.
we do know who's in the building.
Right, we do.
If I come in, I swipe it to come in, they know I'm here.
Right.
It goes on, so we do know who's in here now. I thought we took care of that, right?
We don't, because we don't know what meetings are going on up here, who's coming in. And we're not being notified. And
Well,
how are
don't
they
we
gonna get in
schedule-
anyway
If we
besides?
know who they are, I mean, it's not.
We know who they are, they got the
Well,
card.
they have to sign out, the fobs that you have, they're the assigned to people.
Okay.
They sign out fob number 12, fob number 11, whatever it is. You know who has that.
Anyhow, if we can move on to fire, so I'll revise this, we know it's not over yet, it's the first presentation.
Before we move on to fire, something I found in there that I wanted to ask you about was, because I don't want the chief having to defend, 411-322 and 411-323.
You're on the fire.
Yes, on page 32, or at least the old page 32. I don't know whether this is a new one.
Are you on fire now?
I'm on fire.
Oh,
You have 67,000 and 49,000, but I don't believe that's the right number. I think the only number that should be in there should have been the lease payments on that.
Where are you, Dan?
On page 32, communication equipment and computer software, 67,000 and 49,000. Really, the only thing that should have been in there was the lease payments, because this is amortized over 5 years. Unless there was additional equipment that we
It's
bought.
additional on top of the transition to 9/11.
Oh, okay.
And the software
Well,
also.
Well, okay. Well, then he can tell us about it.
Can we just talk about the police before you jump to the fire?
He moved on.
Yeah, but
Yes, we can.
you jumped right into it. I'd like to ask another question about it. I thought you were asking a question about the police. Do we have a job description of what this position is gonna be as far as the clerk goes? Because I still drive by, walk into the borough building, and the shade's still pulled down, right? And it's not, there's
Just
no
like
one
the
there.
lights are out in the office.
There's no one there, Ray.
Just like the lights are out in the
So,
office.
we need a job
4 o'clock
description.
on,
I
We need
agree.
somebody in
We
there.
need someone there that answers the phone,
That's
that's
right.
there all the time.
That's right.
And that needs to be in the job description.
And when I walk into the office, the phone's ringing.
And we don't have a screen down there, and
And it's
God knows
dark.
what's going on
It
back
is
there.
dark, and people come in
That's
and they'll
right.
say, are you closed?
We're not shooting crap
No, the
behind this
office.
ring.
I know that, but,
Mr. Brennan, are you suggesting that if we hire some people that the curtain go up?
well, I
Are you
sure,
tying-
if
Are you
you work,
tying the curtain to?
well, I
hire?
sure am, because nothing's happening, Ray said it's gonna be up, and it's never up when I come in, Ray.
And the office is never on, light is never on from.
The
2.
lights burn all the time down here as
Two
far as that
don't
goes.
tell me I'm in here every day, Rick, you ain't.
Go on the other side of the hall there, the tax collector
I'm in
side,
here
those
every
lights are on 24/7
I'm
all
in here
year
every
round.
day, and Bob's back there by himself, and it's always, it's me, Bob, and the phone's ringing.
You know, you want
What's
to
that
change
about?
how they're always on?
We have a
Let's
new,
change
That's
the
what
date.
the office wrong.
we have Becky, didn't Becky come today?
Yeah,
Becky
because
started
Donna
today.
controls the lights, She's on one side of the wall, the detective's office on the other. They have no light switch. So she leaves them on so they can, because she can't give them a key to her
I
office.
understand.
Can we change that?
We could change it.
Electrician?
Electrician could fix that.
Right, adding a light switch probably ain't that hard.
Just burn the lights 24/7, because that's the way we've always done
I'm
it.
just telling you, you asked the question, I'm giving you the answer. That's not my.
I know, but we have to change the way things have been done in the past.
That's right, and I come in here on the weekends, nobody's in here, like Saturday, Sunday,
It's about
lights are fucking burning.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm
I
saying.
shut them off. I
Mayor,
go around, you know, like I'm some
Mayor,
kind of.
no profanities, or I'm gonna hit the gavel.
Okay, I'll be like the council
No
lady, what's her
profanity.
name over there?
Great.
This is being recorded, just so you know.
Yeah,
Camera is
Camera's on.
okay, thank you.
I'm guessing he don't care.
Okay, chief, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
We'll call you back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
Dan, I would like to answer your question about 411.322, I believe there was some question.
No, I just thought that those numbers kind of blew your budget, that's all.
They did. If you look, there was $10,000 originally budgeted for it. And that was for some computers and some laptops and some stuff, regular communications equipment, okay?
Yeah.
And then we got smacked over the head with the 911, and we had to upgrade all our stuff, which is the $67,000, and however council's gonna, depreciate that or whatever throughout the budget process, is one thing. You'll look at the $8,000 number requested for 2015, and that is for the maintenance of all those things, the hotspots, the pagers and coders, everything that we have, that is to maintain that. So $8,000 would be a true number that would cover the hotspot, to cover our MDTs in the vehicles and so forth. So, I don't see any depreciation in there in the budget, so I don't know where that may be in there. But the $8,000 is what we need to run the electronics, basically the communication electronics part of the fire department, MDTs and the radio equipment, all that stuff that we just bought. The software, again, originally we had $3873 budgeted for some things that we were gonna buy. And, in 2015, we're looking at $1,200. And that is also, to run some of the programs that we need to run, the reporting software, so we can report to NFIRS and so forth. And a lot of those reporting softwares reflect directly upon the grants that each fire company can get. And I don't know that council's aware of this, but although we do have a budget, the borough does not fully fund the fire departments. They fund themselves as well through training, through fundraisers and whatnot, which you guys know. But they are also eligible for grants. Each fire department as an independent unit gets a state grant of around $14,000 a year. So Munhall Borough is getting another $55,000 roughly from just being a fire department in the state of Pennsylvania and meeting certain training requirements. The minimum training requirement standard met means your fire company would receive about $9,500. We don't have a fire company in town that receives anything less than almost the maximum based upon our training. So a lot of the software that we need to do the reporting to maintain those. In addition to the big grant, which is the FEMA grant, which is how we get our self-contained breathing apparatus purchased for. We could not afford to buy the fire department self-contained breathing apparatus anymore. Each fire company has roughly 30 active firefighters. I'm not talking about the 70 that are on the rosters. 30 active firefighters. Now each fireman needs to wear bunker gear. The cost of fire gear, right now, if I go out and buy Dan Lloyd a set of bunker gear, that's $2,000. I write a check for $2,000 to suit you up. So bunker gear used to have a lifespan, like in the day when you joined, Bernie, when I joined, you ended up with a set of bunker gear, and you had it for 10 years, then you were lucky you got a new set if you stayed active. Well, now we can't do that anymore. We are required to meet training standards, and when our guys go to the training academies, the first day of class is scrutinizing the equipment. And if you have a hole or a tear, and you know this, Bernie, because you come from the same fire department I did back in the day, hole and tear in bunker gear, that was normal. You had a rip in a knee or you had frays on your legs. You're not allowed to even begin training on the state level or the federal level if you have any damage to your fire equipment. Okay, so we figure the average life expectancy of turnout gear is between 5 and 7 years, depending upon how rough and active that firefighter's been. So these are some of the things that are represented in this budget, some of the cost items that are represented. We do not spend money willy-nilly. Each battalion chief is required to submit a list to us, and then we proof that list when that guy asks for something. If he asks for bunker gear, we're very certain that that bunker gear is going to somebody that needs that. That's our job. The battalion chiefs give us a list, and then we scrutinize that list. The list that we get from the battalion chiefs for equipment is over $50,000, $60,000. We narrow that down to the equipment money that the borough gives us.
And the situation you get into is, if you have, let's say you have 20 guys, and you have 6 or 7 that aren't very active at all. It costs you just as much to suit the guy that doesn't come around but 4 times a year as the guy that's there every other day.
One of
The
the
cost
things,
is all the same.
one of the things we do leave, who gets the gear is presented to us from the battalion chiefs. They know their guys, and they understand the economics of it. We do not buy turnout gear, brand new turnout gear for anybody that isn't a full-fledged member of the fire department. A probationary fire department does not get brand new fire gear. They get, and if they go to a class or can't go to a class, they have to borrow somebody else's gear so that they can take that training class. Because we're not buying gear for somebody that may not pan out. We're not gonna spend $2,000 for somebody that may not pan out. So when the need's there, that individual's given the gear, when they show the dedication to the fire department. Additionally, Bernie, and I'm gonna address you on this particularly because you remember a fire department a certain way. Our training standards have completely changed. Back in the old day, you were given a set of gear, and you were given a mentor, and you were basically kicked and thrown into a burning building, here's a hose line, and we do not function that way now. Our training standards, you wouldn't believe the amount of training that we have to do just to maintain a fire department. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to get a Bucks package from Bucks Community College. We can get free training from Allegheny County Community College, but we can't get the certification, which is called a Pro Board certification. That's $150 a piece. So one of the things indicated in our budget is that we want to apply for a Bucks training package, which is that'll provide us 200 hours of training. So we can train any fireman we want in any class, and it's a phone book, the amount of training classes that we can get. This is structural firefighting, hazardous materials, the list goes on and on and on, things that we're required to train on. We are putting a strong emphasis on Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2, National Pro Board certifications. Those certifications help us in the grant side of life. Okay, so that's a twofold argument with the Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2. One, it shows that our firefighters are trained to the maximum that you can and tested upon by a third party. Or, it also allows us to promote grants and apply for grants and receive the maximum when we do get grants based upon the training schedule. To give you an example, this year alone, I've taken 5 Pro Board certifications. Hazardous materials awareness, operations level, Firefighter 2, and a number of others that I've attended. They're $150 a piece that I paid out of my own pocket. So I paid almost $500 a year to train because I didn't have it in the budget to do it. And those are little things that you don't exactly advertise to your wife that you're doing in the fire department.
Or your brother-in-law's mother.
Every firefighter,
Thinking the same
every battalion chief, every deputy chief in the fire department runs that same kind of gauntlet,
I'm not gonna tell
trying to
you.
get your firefighters trained. So that's one of the things that we're applying for in the budget. It's 200 hours of training, plus we get 2 certified Pro Board courses brought to Munhall. We don't have to travel. We can have them train here. We can train up to 25 people per Pro Board test. Now, if we have 30 people, we would pay for the additional 5 to get the Pro Board test. But this is something new that Allegheny County cannot provide us with. So, are there any questions on what I've just stated there before I move on?
No, but I would like to reiterate my question because I think there's something that's not reflected.
Yeah.
And it's probably more for you, Bob, than it is for you, Ed. But when I total up the 411,322, 411,323, which is 67,000, 49,000, and then I go on page 33, 4 items from the bottom, equipment purchases, it's another 47,000. I total those numbers, it's $164,000, but I don't see anywhere on here the amortization charges
You're
that we
right.
paid on those lease agreements.
You're right, that's not
Because
included.
a good 75,000 at least should have been reduced to 16, 17,000, which means that this number, 429, is about $60,000 over where it should have been, which means that they're actually close to where their budget number was, and we gotta fix that. Because they're not $90,000 over budget as of 9/30.
You're right, I'm just checking here, I do not see, I did not include the annual payment to 911 leasing, which is
Right.
roughly $22,000 a year.
Right.
That's
And not
not
all
in
of that, and not all of that was dedicated to
Fire
fire
and police.
equipment, there was police equipment in there too.
And that would go back in debt service.
As a matter of fact, I don't think we spent, other than the pagers and the programming, you guys didn't need a lot of other stuff. There was maybe a couple laptops.
Batteries?
Yeah, we had,
But
There-
just, we need to correct that, that's all
There
I'm
was
saying.
some expense there, but the MDTs were purchased, and, you know, I don't know how familiar you are with that stuff,
Good
but
job,
I'd love to show that stuff to you guys sometime.
excuse me, I have to throw that under debt service. I would throw that 22,000.
Yeah, when the 22,000 goes in there, whatever proportion it is the fire department's proportion, it's gonna pull out some big numbers in equipment expense, that's all I'm saying, so, with that.
Getting back to my point about the training costs and the costs that I incurred, this is not something that you can say to one of your firefighters, hey, I need you to take this training class, by the way, you have to pay for it. Now, I can do that, being in a leadership position and, you know, wanting to lead the fire department and set an example, but we can't ask our new firefighters, you can't ask an 18-year-old or 19-year-old kid to come up with $100 to pay for training. And the fire department stations themselves are trying to maintain the differential just to buy the basic equipment that we don't buy them, because the budget that you see for equipment and everything here, this budget does not indicate what it costs to be a fireman or run a fire department. You know, so if we purchase one self-contained breathing apparatus, that self-contained breathing apparatus purchased today, $6,500. They have a 15-year lifespan, and then they must be removed from service.
Can I ask you a question
Yes,
about your equipment, like these breathing apparatuses? Do they need tested?
Yes.
And how often does your equipment need tested? And is that number in fire maintenance?
It is. The equipment maintenance number that you see there is the number that we test our self-contained breathing. All our self-contained breathing apparatus must be flow tested annually. You don't have to do this. You do this if you want your firefighters to survive in a fire and you don't want to show up at somebody's house. So you test this stuff. So we pay for several $1,000s to have an outside company come in and perform what's called a bench test or a functionality test on the equipment. They give us a report. There's always a repair that needs to be made, an O-ring here, a strap there, something like that, to maintain the NIOSH rating and, you know, on that SCBA, the manufacturer and the NIOSH rating on that SCBA or self-contained breathing apparatus. Fire hoses get tested annually.
That was my next question.
There are air compressors in 2 stations that fill SCBA's, the self-contained breathing apparatus, one at number 5, one at number 4, okay? And the companies downstairs in 200, or number 1, they go to those stations that fill their air ballons, because those compressors are a large ticket item, $35,000 to buy new, just to fill the air packs that go on the back, so we share that. And we do a lot of that in the fire department. It's not like the old days where everybody had the same stuff. We don't. We've really diversified what we do and what each company is specializing in. And that's a conversation we can have at some point. I don't think you want to discuss that tonight.
Do the fire trucks become tested as well?
The fire trucks are tested through First Vehicle.
And that was my question. Is it in your budget here, or is it on the other page?
That's indicated in the First Vehicle maintenance budget as to what we're doing. There is an additional request that we are asking for concerning our ladder truck. We have an $850,000 ladder truck. It is state-of-the-art. And First Vehicle is not, there are things that KME, the manufacturer of that ladder truck, require as part of regular PM for that truck. And it's kind of okay to let, naturally manufacturers want you to do manufacturer-only maintenance. Of course, a Chevy dealer, when you buy your Chevy, only wants a Chevy to work on. However, when you get into the aerial trucks, the larger ones, such as what number 5 has, there are certain maintenance, greasing, cable tensions, and so forth little adjustments, tweaking here and there that need to be done, and really should be done by the manufacturer, not touched by First Vehicle maintenance guy, who does a great job with most of our stuff. But there are certain things that First Vehicle's not frankly qualified to do, and we've indicated that in here. It's buried in there somewhere, that I had on here, where we wanted to add an additional, vehicle repairs, it would be indicated in vehicle repairs. Ladder expenses, we have to have all our ground ladders tested. Okay, so every year our ground ladders and the extending ladders on the squirt and also the power ladder have to be tested.
Who tests them?
And a third-party testing agency.
Pittsburgh Testing do that?
What's that?
Pittsburgh Testing do that?
Yeah, that has been handled traditionally through First Vehicle, they schedule that for us.
They do it through Pittsburgh Testing.
I don't know, I forget the name of the company that does the testing, they come from out of town. And it's a proof test. They take your 35-foot extension ladder and they extend it all the way out, and then they stack weights on it.
Right.
And they make sure that the flexion on that ladder, and they check everything, the pulleys and everything. They do a more severe test, if you will, on the aerial trucks where they dangle weights from them, they're checking that and some stuff. So it's pretty severe. Our fire pumps are also tested annually through First Vehicle. They bring a third party in, all the pumps are tested just like they're tested to 100% capacity. And in some cases, 150% capacity if the water's available.
Who tests homesteads and West homesteads? You know?
I don't know that they do it.
You don't know that?
No, I can't guarantee that they are doing the testing. There's a lot of stuff that you can do yourself. Myself, I'm trained to do a lot of this testing. I mean, we in years past, we did our own testing. But when you do your own testing, when you run your fire pump up, when you test your own fire, we'll test our own fire hose. But some of the things, you don't have that piece of paper to say that it's been tested by a third party, and if something should fail, you're in a lawsuit. And we're talking about our members' lives here, so we don't really mess around when it comes to that testing. As for who tests our surrounding communities, I'm going to tell you that we are a benchmark for that. We do a lot of things because we can to our equipment that some maybe West Homestead doesn't have the funding to do that. I can't speak to that because I'm not privy to their budget.
Well, I'm sure you guys talk to one another, and I'm sure they know that you're having your equipment tested, and I'm sure that they're probably, if they're testing it themselves, they're probably either they're using a company to test, a third-party testing, and I'm just curious as to who they're using versus who we're using, and what kind of comparative cost analysis can we do to see where we're going with our dollar?
We would have to break that out of the First Vehicle contract, find out what First Vehicle is taking out of that to do that, and shop it around and see. I will tell you that there are several companies that do that. They're all roughly around the same price to do that. They compete with each other. It's a competitive number. And the fact that First Vehicle does this for us means that First Vehicle went out and shopped the number first and then brought it in. Normally, I hate low bid numbers.
Right.
Being in the construction field, low bid doesn't mean you get the best service all the time, but sometimes you do get a proper service for that number, and we feel that we're getting that. We haven't had any complaints, and it is getting done appropriately.
Okay.
As far as the pump test and ladder test go, I'm trained to do that stuff, and I know they're doing it right.
Good.
So I have no need to, or no request to change that, other than I don't know how much we would save to do that. It would be, I don't know, we'd have to get with First Vehicle and really break that out of the contract. It's covered now.
Right.
Repairs aren't. I mean, there are some repairs that aren't covered under First Vehicle. If tires may not be covered in some instances, some of the older vehicles, they've been pretty good about working some of our older vehicles, but they really want to lop it off at 15 years. And frankly, our fleet is mostly older than that, but they've been pretty good. So we don't have a whole lot of complaints with First Vehicle. They've been more than helpful. We wish they'd get a mechanic in the back.
Got new one today.
See? Just came through it.
That
So,
was a quick
we'll see.
win.
It took us a while to break Dave in, so now we're gonna break this guy in. That'll be Glenn's job. But that is a concern, we do think about that. I'm sure that there's always little ways to tweak the budget here and there. We do that. Last year and the year before, council asked us to to help out. And we gave back 10 and 15% of our budget. We went to all the battalion chiefs and said, we're in a budget crunch, and we did that. You know, we've done our part here. And we understand the budget situation, and we try to make the battalion chiefs, through communication and good communication on our end, we try to make sure that they understand what's going on. So, that's why you don't see the place full of firemen every time that, you know, we communicate what's going on there.
Right.
And this budget that we submit to you is basically an operational budget. There are some things on here, for instance, the fire hydrants. Last year when we were nipping the budget, the year before we were nipping the budget, one of the things that came up that was nipped was the fire hydrants. The fire hydrants themselves cannot be nipped.
Right.
That's a fixed fee, and most of our budget, most of this budget, is a fixed operational cost. Insurances, workers' comp, the fire hydrants, utilities, all that stuff. These are numbers that we really can't do a lot. Utilities, we've given a lot of thought to utilities, and in order to save on utilities, I think there's a real potential to save on some of the utilities in our buildings. We've talked about this to the chiefs, you know, it's the basic turn the damn light out, like you guys were just talking about downstairs. And sometimes when you come into the building at 3 o'clock in the morning after fire, you gotta get up to work, you gotta get up and go to work in 3 hours, you forget to turn the lights out, you know, so it's me, the bitchy dad, bitching at all the kids to turn the lights out, you know, and we're working on that, but in order to save money on, you have to be willing to make an investment. You know, for instance, motion sensors on lights is an investment that would pay off 3 to 4 years down the road. If you did that, you know, your stairwells, you're walking down a stairwell and the lights click on, you walk out of the stairwell, the lights click off. These are things that the light at a business meeting stays on all the time in the stairwells, you're burning lights. Stuff like this require an investment to see the potential savings down the road. This is the kind of stuff that we've been thinking about lately.
Have we ever done an energy audit in our volunteer houses?
Yes, last year, 2 years ago, I think it was.
That should have been recommended.
Now, I will tell you about the energy in the fire departments. We went through that Vestar thing. You guys are all familiar with the Vestar thing. And I can tell you, there is no way we saved a dime through Vestar. In fact, we lost money. We bought 4 new boilers 5 years after they were put in.
That was a royal school.
They replaced no lights. They upgraded nothing in our, you know, in the original Honeywell proposal. Doesn't matter. Vestar.
Going on business.
You know, and you guys know the history behind that and what happened. You know,
Yeah,
there
we
was a
turned Honeywell
$90,000
down.
differential, and there's nothing we can do about it now. It's just a sore ass problem that we have to deal with. But those are ways to help down the road. Energy ideas, stuff like that, are ways that we can conserve. The fuel costs is another issue that sometimes can get out of hand. We keep a pretty close track on our fuel and oil in the fire department. Each battalion chief provides us with a report monthly on their goings and, you know, doings during the month, and additionally, they attach their fuel receipts, so we know what the fuel costs are. And that's a disputed point. We figure we're about $17,000 in fuel. The number indicates that we're over budget on that, and you'll see the budget was $15,500. And we think that's a legitimate number, based upon the cost of fuel. The problem is, and council, I hope you're aware of this, is that our call volume this year will end up being around 450 runs. 2 years ago, we weren't at 300. So our call volume is increasing exponentially. There's a point where we anticipate maybe if you do some long-term planning, there's a point 4 or 5 years down the road, we're gonna be answering 500 calls a year. And most of those are within our time. Yes, we do answer mutual aid, but mutual aid comes to us on the larger buildings every time there's alarm activation, so tit for tat. So we do increase our call volume, increasing dramatically here. Hence, our fuel bills will go up. And if we get a few working house fires, where we're running 3 and 4 major pieces of equipment for 4 or 5 hours, you're gonna see, you know, and we've had that this year. We've had multiple engines running for hours, just pumping water, you know, and doing things. And that adds up to our fuel bills as well. You'll see that that's where the potential chink in the armor is on the fuel going over. We're not out doing the parades that we used to do. We're not going to Saxonburg every year. You know, we're not doing all the stuff that we used to do. We keep everything local for that reason. You know, it's wear and tear on the vehicles that it's difficult to justify. You do have to do some of that stuff. You'll see our fire trucks at the occasional parade. You know, you have to do something to keep our young firemen interested. There's nothing more important than a firefighter who's around 18 or 19 years old. Nothing more important than that. Because they turn into firemen that are mine and Honey's age. that stay there.
I fell off the truck at the Kennywood Parade one time.
Should have been belted in, see, you wouldn't be allowed to do that now. That's why we're forming a safety committee for the workers' comp. We're gonna have a safety committee on workers' comp. The committee's gonna be made up of rank and file members as well as officers of the fire department plus the relief association. We're doing this to save and conserve cost on the workers' comp. We're trying to think outside the box ways to save money. That is a big one, the workers' comp, you know this. And we did save the borough a good chunk of money by going out, getting that other policy, you guys know this. You know, we got that policy through the relief association, yeah, the borough has to pay that, but we were able to apply for and get a lower reduced rate by doing that. You know, that was a little smoke and mirrors there we did all together.
Good
You know what I
job.
mean? But, you know, we felt, again, doing our part to try and, you know, otherwise our workers' comp would have been maybe 60, 70, whatever the percentage would have been, it would have been considerably higher. So we're working, and a goal of ours in the next 4 years is gonna be to keep our workers' comp points low, to keep that hit low. Difficult to do in the fire department, it's a dangerous job, you know, you get ankles, twisted knees and stuff like that, heaven forbid that's all we get, but we've been pretty successful at it.
I had one item I wanted to ask about, and I think it's, again, for Bob, is building maintenance on number 3, 17,000. I think most of that was reimbursed by insurance, because I remember the check, one check was for 15 grand, and another check, you know, that we sent to the contractor.
Where are you?
That was after the water break.
Yeah,
It's only 1,384.
384. Again, that's blowing up their actual for 2014, but that money was reimbursed, except for $1,000, I believe.
Now, when we prepared this budget, and it's a point of contention with us, is we don't see, you know, Matt has never seen, and we never get to see the utility bills, they don't come to us. Everything that the fire department comes off of this budget, everything, nothing gets paid until we put a budget category on it, and one of the 3 chiefs assigns a signature to it. And then it goes downstairs to pay. That way he knows what budget category it comes out of, and we keep that. If you wanna know what we bought 10 years ago, all you have to do is ask me, I'll take you right in the computer, it's on a programmer, I can show you the progression of our funding over the years. You wanna see 2 years budget, 3 years budget, I can tell you what everything is. One of the things that drives us crazy is the utilities bills, because we never see it. We're sitting up there, and I'll be going through it, I'll have the meeting that month, and I'll be going through it, and I'll see a $17,000 water bill at number 1. I understand typos and stuff like they're gonna happen, but consistently we have these problems with the utility bills. I don't know what's going on, they're way out of whack. So when I brought that to the attention of, what's his name, Harry, when I brought that to Harry's attention, when I went down to the office, he handed me a box and said, here, go through it, and I walked down the office. Sorry, that was right before he left. Maybe
Well, I don't think we blow them up, I mean, I look at them, if it's number 3 fire hall or number 1 fire hall, I sign the bill, that's typically what goes in. Once in a while, you do get a utility bill
Yeah,
that's wrong.
we try to keep an eye on that, you know, when we see something that's really out of whack, you know, a $1,300 sewage bill, I try to bring it up to you guys. The problem is I don't see that until we're probably sitting in the chair, and then I have to raise my hand, because you're gonna approve the bill, and I just wanna bring it to you. I guess I could handle it by just going to the borough manager the next day and saying, hey, this is wrong, or check on this, you know,
Or we could just have somebody copy those bills and send them to the fire office, and then you can review them if
I'd
there's a
love to.
problem.
I would love that, that's just an added thing that, you know, it's one more thing we're gonna have to do, but being that, you know, we would like to see that way we can track problems or see where potential waste is going on or a problem's going on, I'd really like to see
I think
those.
that's a good policy that we copy the fire utility bills and give you a copy to the fire
We
office.
give them everything else except those, that's not, it's not difficult to do that.
Right.
So the fire prevent, 411-242 is fire prevention, included in there is the Bucks training package that I was telling you about, plus our regular fire prevention, duties that we perform, which is going to the high rise. We went to the high rise, we went to St. Teresa's a month ago, spoke to all them, we had about 80 people. We did, Munhall Retirement, we had about 40 people down there. We're gonna do, right after the first of the year, we're gonna kick that up a little bit, we're gonna really make fire prevention, you know, we're gonna be doing a lot of those talks to the residents. So that's some little minor stuff for Lenny's division is in there so that he can, you know, get some handouts and stuff like that when we go there. There's some things in The first vehicle, I don't know where we're at, first vehicle, we assume $34,000 number is a good number. I don't know what the contract is, I haven't seen it. In fact, I don't think we've ever seen the first vehicle contract. We've only-
$184,000.
So I don't know what they owe, we only know what they owe us when we call down there and they tell us we owe that fee or we don't know that fee. But again, they've been pretty good with fixing things that they shouldn't. We're losing a piece of shit, ingrown toenail from number one called that's that ambulance thing they have. They're buying a new vehicle for rehab that they're paying for. They're investing about $80,000 in that, so that's a brand new vehicle that won't be maintenance on the fleet that the rehab vehicle's been. If anybody wants to know what that's all about, I'd be happy to tell you. But, and PJ will be here at the meeting, I'm sure, when he comes in to do a dedication. So, the utilities, yeah, it's a concern, it's always a concern, it drives me crazy. It drove me nuts all year that we were paying for the utilities on number three's building, it was coming out of the fire budget. It wasn't our building, but I let it go. But, you know.
Hey, number two is listed in administration.
Yeah,
Most of that bill is
there's,
administration.
yeah, but there is some, it's like an invisible number, we just pull 20% out and give it to number two, and that's kind of been understood. The fleet, by the way, is in relatively good condition, we just had a major repair done on the ladder truck, believe it or not. It's back in service, it's been out of service for 2 weeks. There's a brake problem going on there that we're dealing with. Vehicle repairs is over and above. You were asking about that too, but vehicle repairs also covers stuff that's not covered. The occasional backed into a telephone pole, rip the bumper off. We never had a budget for that. We need to make repairs, so we have to get it from somewhere. So, you know, that's what that is there. Fire equipment maintenance. Pretty much any of our equipment that needs repaired, and it does go bad frequently. O-rings, fire extinguisher parts, everything that we use, the functional pieces, that's how we repair it out of fire equipment maintenance. Calibration gas for our carbon monoxide monitors, I can expand on that if you want. I believe you guys understand that, what that is. If there's any question on that, I can expand upon that. The workers' comp, you see there, you know what that is. Fire vehicle insurance, does that need explained why we're doing that? You guys understand that that's a separate policy from what the borough has, or an upgrade from the borough policy that we had, at a pretty good rate. There was one more thing I wanted to really bring up here. Let me find it. And equipment purchases, those are the SCBA's, those are the fire extinguishers, those are hoses. You wouldn't believe what that stuff costs. I'd love to go over it with you sometime, pass out and show what you charge for that stuff. Lenny, am I missing anything you know of?
What about the defibrillators? Are defibrillators else through the borough somewhere?
Yes, most of the fire trucks have a defibrillator. Keep in mind that defibrillators are a really touchy area that people don't quite understand. People think we can just throw a defibrillator up somewhere and the world is safe. And defibrillators are only save lives when you have somebody using a defibrillator that's been trained to use a defibrillator. They don't save lives on their own, okay? The thought of putting them certain places is great, and we do have them on the fire trucks, and most of our firefighters are EMTs and are trained to use them. But part of the repairs, maintenance, you need pads for the defibrillators. They're $400 or something like that for just a new set of pads. They do have a shelf life. The batteries on those things have a shelf life. All that gets paid for out of that category when we do that. So each fire truck in Munhall, whether it be rescue truck or fire truck, basically carries BLS equipment. Some of our equipment in town is more than just basic, but we do put an emphasis on first aid and safety. We do back EMS up on more than a few occasions when they are out of town or overwhelmed. You will hear the fire whistle go off, that fire truck will roll out the door with 3 or 4 EMTs on it. We did it during the ice storm considerably. We had multiple vehicles out, taking ambulance calls, waiting for the next ambulance that was coming from Westmoreland County to come take the call. So, yeah. So that's a lot of stuff that you'll be reading a little bit more about that sort of stuff in the monthly reports. We're going to try and expand the monthly reports for you guys, just so you have an idea of what it is and what we're doing. So I'll try to give you phone book document for you to read between meetings, if I can. So, if there are any other questions for the fire department, I mean, I'd be happy to answer them anytime, you know. Our budget, the total budget here should be about where it was last year, total actual operating budget, maybe a little less. Maybe slightly more.
You see the proposals within this, you know, $5,000, $6,000.
Yeah, I think I think there's $1,000, I think is the differential between this year and last year, I think. Taking into account a few things that are questionable. But unfortunately, we've been pretty busy. We had a house fire last night on 9th Avenue, so.
Thought it was the church, I went down the alley.
That was Viola's tenant,
Yeah.
cooked his kitchen off and almost lost the rug. A broken water pipe saved the day. It was on its way up the chase and a broken water pipe. Huh, Glenn?
We'll still be there.
Yep, we'd still be there. Broken water pipe broke, fused, the solder link melted on the copper, blew right in the chase where it was all burned out.
Save the building.
Yep.
Oh, my, talk about lucky.
Had a good plumber.
Fire suppression
Should be
system.
lucky.
Bad plumber for-
Yeah.
I know, certainly the fire department's interested in working with council, but you understand there are certain things, for instance, the truck fund. The truck fund is that keeps us running. The truck fund keeps us keeps the fleet good, keeps it up to date. It's a deal for everybody, you know, I know I've told you guys that before. That 30 years ago, Munhall Borough used to write checks and buy fire trucks, when fire trucks cost $68,000. Now fire trucks cost $500,000.
With the ladder truck though, the truck fund's basically out of business.
Well, number four's engine will be paid off next year, and then the only thing we will be paying on is the ladder truck. Depending upon how we do with the investments in certain things, we look at maybe being in a position, maybe 10 years after that, to look at the next engine, and it's not as gloom and doomy there's a word, as it seems. But yeah, that put a big dent in us, yeah, but, you know, we were able to do that, and it's.
Being Rich isn't here tonight, I'm gonna bring up one thing he probably would bring up every budget meeting I think ever had, and maybe it's not a bad idea to look at it, maybe someday we do need to have a fire tax, 0.5%, you know, dedicated to
Just to
help
the
you
fire.
guys out.
Since you could pay streets, the fire trucks could run along and do that, yeah. You know?
I mean, I know, it's just, you
A
know,
lot of communities have it.
There's
Yeah.
communities, I know
It's a
Glassport has
It's a
one,
dedicated mill.
it's a dedicated mill or half a mill or
whatever.
something, but that may be something that we have to look at doing someday.
I
Because I mean, you know, your budget's within this year, but, you know, we know it's always not gonna stay that way, because this year we're not buying any equipment, right?
Not,
That we really don't, I mean, other than the, you know, the firefighters' equipment, we're not buying any new trucks.
no,
new
and the
vehicles.
borough doesn't absorb that burden anymore, because you're able to make a contribution to the truck fund,
Mhm.
we're able to keep that solvent, keep that running. We get about, a little bit less than what about that donation from the people, and that keeps us running there. So, actually, we'll be starting to think about looking at the next engine, probably about 8 years, Bernie, 7 or 8 years, you know. There's light at the end of the tunnel
We
there.
have to get to a point where, how many frontline pumpers do you really need to? That's a question
Well,
that comes down.
That is a question,
Yeah.
and I can answer it several different ways. Right now, we currently have 3 pumpers, telesquirt, and a ladder truck. If I compare that to other towns of similar to ours, not our neighboring communities, but similar towns. Because if you think about it, between Homestead and West Homestead, they have more equipment than we do almost, between those 2 towns. And then each town is half the size of our town put together. So, all busy fire departments, extremely busy fire departments. I give us an edge in manpower, you know, we have a lot more firefighters than they do, totally. But, go look at the fire truck that Homestead just bought off of Pleasant Hills, Brian.
I heard
It's
about it.
it's $1 million truck.
Nice.
It is. It's $1 million truck.
What'd they pay for
60 grand, it's 15 years old,
it? Wow, what a deal.
if it holds up.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
bought
it's
one before that off
15
the
years
city.
old, what's that?
They're the one before that they bought from the city.
Yeah, and, you know, and that's, you know, they don't have a truck fund. They don't have the people donating to them. They don't have the business district helping them out. They don't, you know, they're in a little different financial situation than we are. We're able to do that. It's very, very important. You know, we're not buying somebody else's used piece of crap. It's not happening in this town. And our firemen deserve better than that. I'm not saying we deserve the best of the best. We don't do that when we buy it. When I bought the engine up at number 4, I wanted to spend another $150,000 on my wish list. I was limited to what I could spend. We weren't able to do that with the ladder truck as much because their ladder trucks cost what they cost to get the safety features and to be, you know, to do what you want to do with them. They cost a lot of money. You could have went with a straight, they didn't want to go with, they want to work out of the basket. It's safer to work out of the basket than it is a straight stick, and you'll get those people that'll give you that argument, straight stick basket, turning you on top.
I wouldn't want to
You
stick
know?
on the end of the stand. I've been on the end of a stick, I don't like to do this.
That's why we have a
I mean,
basket.
a
'Cause our-
basket is-
Our firemen can ventilate a roof from the basket, they're safer, you know, this goes to, you know, there are a lot more, you know, they can argue that.
Kind of like being on the end of the Titanic. You can fly.
One thing I want to point out to council, St. Teresa's Plaza used to give us a donation every year, it used to come into the borough and it disappeared. The borough was pass-through from the borough, it was a $7,000 pass-through donation. And it should have come into the borough and passed through the truck fund, and that donation wasn't made, okay, to the truck fund. Now, we didn't push it as a point of contention, because we can just consider that our borough budget was $7,000 less. But some of the concern is if they were to do an audit, find out where that money went. So just keep in mind, if you see that donation from St. Teresa's Plaza, I don't know
Did it
what
come?
they sent.
Like, for 2014, they sent it?
I talked to Judy before she left, and she said she did send it, so we don't know where it went.
When?
Oh boy, it was, they would have sent that out. I don't know the date. I can find out.
Like the last 6 months, the last 6 weeks?
No, 6 months, I think 6 months.
I have a question, St. Teresa's, isn't the, what's the name of the Presbyterian?
Senior care.
Senior care, since you have new personnel in there
Yes.
and all that. Did this come from Judy?
Judy.
And it
Judy
was-
initiated that.
And it was sent.
Yes, that's what she said. That's what she told me. She initiated that because they felt that they weren't paying taxes and they wanted to do something, so
It
they
was a
gave
donation.
10 grand or something like that, and half went to
Nowhere.
7 went to the fire department, the differential was to go to the police department, something like that, and that was what they could get out of their budget to do something for the town. We appreciated it.
Yeah.
And it benefits all the fire companies by going to the truck fund, rather than just the nearest station or whatever, so that's why we did that. So, that's just food for you guys to think about.
It was sent to the borough.
Yeah, with the check would go to the borough, not to the truck fund, because it has to funnel, they wanted it to funnel through the general account, and that, you know what I mean, so.
All right, Ed, well, thank you very much. You did a nice job explaining.
We need to look into that, Ed, see if it did come in, or whatever it did happen to that.
Again, you know, 2014, I'm not worried about it, it might be more of a bookkeeping issue with them,
Right.
or with, you know what I mean, it can come back. At this point, you know, we're not asking for that money back,
I'm just hoping we send a thank you back to them.
we're just, no, they never wanted anything.
You know, a little thank you gesture would be nice too.
This document was about as comprehensive as I've ever seen here, and I appreciate the work.
Best presented budget I've ever seen.
If you need anything additional, just let us know, and it'll be provided to you.
All right, thank you.
And just for the record, Matt would have been here tonight, but he has some things going on, he had to deal with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
If I could just take us a little bit more time, recreation is such a small amount, rather than do it Wednesday, we can just do it now, and then Wednesday we'll, at a workshop meeting, we have a number of other things to do as well, but we'll be looking primarily at public works and refuse.
What page do we have to start with?
That'll be on page 38 of your,
Mhm.
page 38, your green packet. as we were talking, there's a couple other things I think you need to put in. But anyhow, for recreation, and it's all funny money, but, we've talked about forming a recreation board. Hopefully that will happen in 2015. Just for the money, to set it up, to incorporate it, give them a little bit of operating money, I suggested $5,000. It was suggested by others on 452.250, put security cameras on Troutman and Widow, and the software that would go with that, to at least to catch some of the vandals and some other thing that's going on. It was suggested that we put that in there. And the other cost you can see is pretty comparable to what we've done in previous years, and I just extended that.
I have a question, Bob. The holiday decorations dinner you got there, you had 7,500 this year, and you got 4,000 there next year. I was approached by park businessmen, and I haven't looked at the expenditures this year on what it was, but it can't be more than a few $100s this year. And I was budgeted around 7,500, and I'd have to look back at that. But Dan Spellman came to me and asked if it's possible naturally that we can get back to the decorations in the area, in the business area. And I told him with my personal feelings that, you know, if there's money, you know, there for the holiday decorations from the budget that I, you know, use for the decorations and all that, you know, I'd be glad to talk to council and forward that to them. But I think he's under the assumption that it's probably gonna be 7,000 this year and probably 7,000 last year, or next year, I should say.
Pastor asked me for 40 grand.
I volunteered for $7 grand, Dan, and I volunteered that if I have a budget next year, he can have whatever's in that, another 7, but it's 4. Whatever it is, but they were, you know, Dan was very grateful to our offer. So I think, you know, we can use that for the decorations. If we have it, then I think, you know, we may be, that's something I think it's probably gotta be one important holiday decoration time. We need something up there. I was willing to, yeah, he said, how many decorations could he buy this year for what? I don't know what they cost, about 600 each. I says, you don't wanna put about 10 decorations up. I think we wanna put at least 20. So it's just something for council to, you know.
Those big Dickens wreaths, they're just so big and so expensive, and the lights burn out, and they're up for such a long time to deteriorate. A nice holiday banner, festive banner, would be very nice to have.
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They're talking something else, and then, like I said,
Yeah.
maybe put 15 or 20 of them spaced properly and all
Yeah,
that. I think that could.
these
answer-
Dickens wreaths are so hard for everybody to put up and
No.
store, and they're just
More.
cumbersome. And,
You mean a banner on each light?
well, basically, maybe not every one, but just banner of the Main Street, the holiday banner.
Place some Christmassy one.
Yeah, holiday banner.
Well, so what do you want in there, Mayor? 7,500 bucks?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, we had 7,000 or whatever it was this year, and I was gonna ask for the same thing for next year. But, you know,
Oh,
we're short for 14, 15,000. Oh, we're like, probably did a nice job. But I'd like to be able to say, hey, council says, hey, hell yeah.
You talking 7,500 or how much?
75 for 1,500, this year was 7,000, next year's 7,000, 7,500, whatever.
It was 7,500 last year, but we
I
didn't
think
spend
the
it.
banner-
We didn't spend it.
If we did, as of September, we didn't, we may have, but.
No, we didn't.
No, you'll get some bills from the cookies and the stuff
Okay.
like that, you'll get a few $100.
The smarter we get, though.
I make sure.
They're all shot.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
They
They
got monsters.
just, they get broke.
They're broke and let them
Yeah.
don't work.
They're not putting them up to show.
How old are those wreaths now?
They're over 10 years old.
Yeah,
Oh,
they were,
yeah.
they've been around when I have been on council.
You know what, we
So
walked
that's
them down
what
on
I
Eighth
thought.
Avenue 7 years ago, and 2 years later, we were replacing half
It
of
was
them.
normal,
And they were
I mean,
horrible.
that's normal, I mean, 10 years for
Should we,
decoration.
should we budget a fire, flagpole for Woodhill? I mean, would that ever get done?
No.
I think we should put that in the budget and get that done this year.
I
Well,
would
he
like to
doubled
see
it.
that.
Yes, definitely.
They've been promised that for quite some time.
He doubled it from 4,600 to 8 grand.
The flagpole?
Woodhill maintenance,
Oh, what about maintenance, okay.
or just maybe make
Well, I
it
see.
10, to get the flagpole in there.
I think we
Should
should,
make a notation to
Let's make sure
include
we
the
get the
flagpole.
flagpole this year.
Yes.
yeah, I think we should be spearheaded and get it done.
Mhm.
I like the flagpole out here.
Okay, anything else on recreation?
No. Well, community days, we're spending $2,000 on. I think we need to sit down and talk about that in the near future. And I think our community day should be spent at Kennedy Park this year.
Yeah, we can, yeah, I wasn't gonna do a meeting this month for recreation, but I was planning on one in January, just because the holidays, and I don't wanna have a meeting for 2 or 3 people.
Well, and I think Kennedy Park is gonna probably need a little bit of, electric upgrade maybe to have a function down there.
Right,
So
now,
we may have to put a little bit of investment into the park. trying
Arts
to
Council
get
had
us up.
something down there for years back in the 90s.
Pardon me?
Arts Council did a
Festival.
festival all along 10th Avenue. They brought in a couple generators.
You can use portable generators.
He did it. And then there's that company that does the solar stuff. They can come up and almost help you out with power.
The arts have it in the library
Zero
right
fossil.
now,
Yeah,
every year, last 2 years.
they powered the party under the bridge. All the power was at zero
Okay.
fossil. So it can be done.
that's why they laid the Christmas tree at the county, I think, too.
Yeah.
You saying 2,000's okay or more?
Well, that's what I'm asking these guys. I'm
No.
trying to bring it up to see what they were trying to
2,000, I mean,
get a little
depending
from.
what your plans are.
Yeah,
If
who knows?
2,000 enough.
Yeah, you can't tell.
We
really
gonna
don't
get
know until you get
entertainment,
into
or,
it.
Doesn't give you much.
we
I
gonna
mean,
need to
if
get the
you
inflatables like we have in the past?
I mean-
Let's face it, $2,000 doesn't come in.
Doesn't buy you
We have
much.
public works-
$2,000, I could get a cheap band,
We always end up with.
or 2 maybe,
When you
2
start
cheap
putting,
bands.
you
but-
start putting
Not
police
too
police
much.
overtime in there,
Bad.
public works
Yeah.
overtime, it's gone.
But, yeah, I
Right.
mean, 2,000 is
That's why I'm bringing it
low
up now,
because you
saying,
have
hey.
overtime for public works, you have, security, you have police down
But
there.
that would be factored into their particular budgets, not necessarily the
Right.
recreation.
But,
Why don't we put $5,000 in on that?
but, you know, like, if if they want the inflatable rides, you know, those inflatables,
I don't think
those are
we
gonna
want
cost you
inflatables.
$1,000.
I don't think we want
I
it.
mean, we don't need them.
I think we want
Entertainment does.
Entertainment, I mean, the most we ever paid for a band at Community Day, since I was going, it was $800 we paid one time for a band. And it was the Granati Brothers, you know who they are, Joey. I mean, they're good, but if you wanna get somebody bigger to draw somebody, you pay a lot more than $800.
I
so-
think this isn't the time to discuss the
Yeah.
community days.
Right, that's what we'll meet in January for that.
But I think we should put maybe $5,000 on there as a number. We don't need to spend all of it.
That's fine. I'm in agreement with you, and then we just have to figure out the smartest way to spend that money.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows if we'll spend all of it. I think we need to approach the library and do something in conjunction with the library,
Right,
do a real community days affair.
Maybe
down
an
there.
inside concert.
Yeah, so that's just my thoughts on this, so.
I'm agree, we can bump that up to 5,000.
Right, you just went from 50-something to 62.5.
Okay. Remember, 60,000.
It's up to you if you want to adjourn till Wednesday evening, it's up to you folks.
I just have one question. I wasn't here earlier, so I'm not sure what you guys talked about. But under the revenue side,
We didn't even talk right.
We're not doing it.
okay, but there's one thing that just jumps off the page to me that maybe we should address. On page 16, under the revenue, 263.21, parking meters.
No, it should be solid waste.
That's what I thought.
That was a,
Okay, because, I mean, I was gonna say, if we're getting 490,000 for parking meters, let's put a few more in. Yeah, let's put a few more in. I mean, but okay, that's what, I had that already
if you
marked
look
under
at the
mine.
previous budget, the next line said solid waste.
Yeah, it is-
The
it was
guy who did
delinquent.
this wasn't
We'll
thinking
leave that-
straight at the time.
That was Joe, that was well discussed between me and Pat down.
Okay, yeah, when I seen that, I mean, it just jumped off the page.
Actually,
And I
we did
thought
that
it
on
would've
purpose to see if you guys read this.
Hey, I read it, and I actually have it highlighted. Okay, that's,
Okay, well, if that's,
thank you.
We're meeting Wednesday.
Wednesday night, 6:30, as part of our working group, but we'll go through public works and administration,
Okay.
redo it again for the following Monday night.
Are we staying for budget after the meeting, or is it from 6:30 to 7, the budget?
It'll be part of
Oh,
our
with
working.
part of the work session,
Part of the work
okay.
session.
I got it.
Excellent.
Do you have an agenda set, Bob, for Wednesday?
Not yet.